All right. Good morning again. I think after that, don't need an opening statement, right? That's the best opening statement that you could ask for. As a coach, very grateful for those guys, their commitment to not only the program, but to their own personal craft. I think when you make a decision like that, that's as purpose driven as their decision is. Purpose driven in the sense from a personal standpoint, from a team standpoint, from a program standpoint, it speaks very loudly, for them as people, them as competitors, them as teammates. So, again, we all know how special University of Oregon is, and again, to have those guys as part of this family, to have the kind of season that they had and want more, to be part of an athletics department, right? Thanks to Rob Mullins and the administration for providing us with the resources where our basketball teams, our football teams, our track and field teams all, right now in the top 10. It's quite a statement and only getting better, just getting started. So with that being said, I'm sure there's a bunch to catch up on. So here we go.
Right here first, Matt on the left.
Were you finding out in real time like we were when you're sitting back there? And can you just maybe describe your emotions of just seeing those four guys and the culture that this program has set, that they want to come back and have one more year of that?
Did I find out in real time? I don't know. What is real anymore, right? So, no, we had a chance to sit down with the families. And, when we present information, and we gather all the data so that they can make the best decision for them. And look, these are hard decisions now. And whether you're a guy that's somehow like postured to be an early round pick, or to be a little bit later in the draft, those are great opportunities. There's a lot to weigh because, football sometimes can be very unforgiving, and, career paths are set or unsettled with decisions like this. So, we had the opportunity to sit with them and their families, and they were awesome. They were incredibly, and at the same time, thankful for Hawk and everybody else that helps us gather that information, present them the right stuff. So we got a little bit of a heads up, early enough. So kind of like a football commitment video, right? Prospect. So it was all good. Second question, I apologize. What was the second question?
What's your thoughts of just the culture? These guys want to come back and have another year of that. It's just another sign of you're getting accomplished what we want.
Yeah, well, you'll probably hear me say this a lot. When we get on a message, we stay on it pretty good about how the things we do here are, there's a process, but it's a purpose-driven process, and their purpose is strong. Their why is very strong, and it's very clear. And when you have that, it allows you to work tirelessly for that and to work in conjunction with the rest of your teammates, colleagues, or whatnot to make things a reality. There's the power of belief is great, but the reality of work and preparation is also just a bigger part of it. Those guys are willing to put in the work. We all got here together. I remember arriving here, having to play a basketball game. I mean, I didn't play. I actually just kind of watched Justin Herbert just like slap away coaches taking shots over at the arena. But I also remember meeting Jordan for the first time in the cafeteria. And he's like, "Hey, you're that guy at Alabama." I go, "Hey, you're that guy from Florida." So that was interesting. And seeing Thomas, who had been a guy that camped with us at the former place I was at. So it's kind of neat. It's kind of neat being on a ride that just saw a bunch of great seniors move on to the next step, and saw the guys that came in with that class now take their final step.
In the middle, James.
Mark, a lot of these guys cite the academics and are on track to graduate, but in Jordan's case, since he already graduated, and I'm sure still working through the master side of things as the Rose Bowl, he wasn't sure if he was registered for class. Right. How much went into that decision where he knew he wasn't going to be a first or second round pick when he got that feedback, but nevertheless, other than pass rush, it's hard to argue what a zero technique can really improve on necessarily by coming back. So what was the conversation there with him specifically?
Well, Jordan, I think, is more than just a zero technique. He's a shade. He's played the 2. He's played the 3. I mean, he continues to improve his strengths, his power, his functionality. I think the diversity, the versatility that this defense allows him to showcase is going to be really important for him going into this spring and going into the season. Like he had mentioned, his ability, or I would say his pass rush plan, because he has the ability, but more technical and fundamental, and the approach to his betterment is going to be critical. And you know what? When you have your diploma in hand, things kind of slow down a little bit. I'm not saying it's like the NFL where you don't have to go to class at all, but it can slow down where you could, now your focus and your time invested in your craft can increase. And he's that kind of guy. And again, you watch every single year what he's done with his body, what he's done with his play at the line of scrimmage has been really impressive. He could take another massive step this offseason.
Right here on the left, Maria.
I'll ask you the same thing I asked the four of them. It just seems like a trend that there are so many student athletes within Oregon athletics that are choosing to come back for their senior years. And that's rare for it to be an athletic-wide thing. What do you think from your perspective that just kind of means or says about Oregon in general and being a part of this culture?
Well, the neat thing about it, you're seeing all kinds of different, I would say, guys and gals that are postured differently in their respective sports, and then making the decision to come back. Kind of, again, I hate to be redundant, but speaks loudly of the university, the administration, the commitment to the student athlete, right? Because if you travel around the country, you see how people do things, and I think when you stop here at Oregon, you see that the investment, the true investment in the student athlete, it's uncomparable. It's second to none. Because the student athlete experience, the educational side, the personal side, the professional side, everything that goes with it here is just, it's taken to a new level. And it's something that you don't have this 3 or 4 year pit stop again in your life. This is that last pit stop before moving on. And I think they all recognize the importance of the quality of that stop, and not to mention the results, right? And the path that stop sets you on. So it's become more and more evident. I know parents see it all the time. It's why it just continues to get better and better. So I see it. I mean, heck, if I was going to school, I'd try to stay for about 8 years and be a doctor or something like that. But I'm glad that they're all getting to experience the things that they are.
On the right, middle there, Julian.
What kind of influence do you think that those guys could have on some of the younger players, especially by the way they carry themselves and this decision in general?
Culture never sleeps, and leadership, especially from within, from the locker room, will always trump anything else. Good teams can always be good with talent and good coaching, but great teams and elite teams will always have to be built from the inside out. And by that, I mean the locker room and what comes out of there. And they've had a chance to experience really good leadership. Guys that we all know, the story's been told a few times, right? You know, going through a 4-8 season and being able to put your foot in the ground and turn it around. So what can they bring to the table? They could bring everything to the table. And they know that, Thomas had mentioned consistency and leadership. All right, you bear that cross now. When it's on you and you're designated as a leader, there are no moody days, right? Because your goals, your team's goals, their perception, it doesn't quite care about your feelings, right? They want to see you lead a certain way. They want to see you lead on edge and be consistent. And when you do that, so that is a huge step in the development of these guys as it relates to them being the best future fathers and husbands they can be, as well as the best future professionals, the best future student athletes as it relates to next year, and so on and so forth. So is it important? It's, in my opinion, the most important part, because it's the intangible one that requires a lot of focus and a lot of work to get those results.
Front right, Ryan.
How close are you to naming an offensive coordinator?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, we've done a lot of work before the bowl game, a lot of work after it. Don't rush these things, because when it's right, it's right. The candidates are all outstanding. They all bring something to the table that makes us better. And it has to be, in our opinion, it has to hit on all cylinders in terms of not only a guy that's a great X's and O's guy, not only a guy that can recruit really well. It has to be a great person, has to fit the culture, has to be bought in completely. It has to be something that that really just generates the same type of momentum that we're generating and is completely in. So I feel we're getting closer and closer. I hate to put a timeline on it, and it goes, take a little bit longer, but hopefully within the week we can come to a decision on that and move forward.
Same row on the left, Eric.
This defensive backfield could be pretty good this next year. I wonder how excited you are about just seeing the competition with all the guys coming in, the players elevating their play at the end of the season. A guy like Brady, who was a defensive MVP in the Rose Bowl, and then the players you add in this class. Just how excited are you to kind of get going with this defensive group?
Without a doubt. I mean, I think watching Brady Breeze play is an indication of the level of not only talent, but the level of performance that that this defense is generating. And I think one of the best parts about that is that since we have an open quarterback competition going into spring ball, that's the best way to develop your quarterback, right? And your wide receivers. Put them against the very best out there. We feel that, all these guys are up here today. We feel that they're as good as it gets in the conference and beyond. So we're thrilled to have them. And all that does is make your team better. We're an iron sharpens iron mentality around here when it comes to competition. So, yeah, we absolutely love the fact that they all have that as part of their purpose. They want to be able to compete because, guys, let's call it what it is. Here you compete and you go back and you still have your meal card working, right? And you still have your dormitory, everything else. Their future plans as it relates to competition, the rooms they're going to sit in the NFL, well, being cut's a reality, right? And practicing to compete is really important if you're going to take that step because those rooms are, in the NFL, that's a shark tank now, right? And it's not very forgiving. And if you want to be good when you get there, you better get used to having someone nipping at your heels all the time for playing time.
Front left, Matt.
I think 19 out of your guys on the 2 deep for defense are back next season. I'm just kind of curious your thoughts. I know Troy and a couple other seniors are gone. Those are going to be tough misses, but your potential on this group with so many guys from the 2 deep coming back.
Excited about that. Excited about their development. Excited about year 2 in a scheme that really such drastic improvement. Such drastic change in culture and teaching and unity on that side of the ball that it was such a huge difference in our season this year. So to have 19 of those guys back that can serve as mentors for some of these great young guys that are coming in as well, it's we're getting closer and closer to what we want to be as a program, especially as it relates to that side of the ball from a recruitment standpoint, from a development standpoint, from a personnel usage standpoint and a culture standpoint, that it's tremendously exciting.
In the middle, James.
Nobody asked you after the Rose Bowl about Jalen missed the game. It was termed as personal reasons. He posted a few days ago something rather cryptic, just green light, and I don't pretend to know what that means. Can you shed light as to his status with the program at this point?
If you don't know, I don't know either. I know that he was handling a personal matter, and he has resumed classes and workouts with us, and that's where it's at.
Right, next one, AJ.
Coach, I know scholarship math is fuzzy and moving all the time, but these guys coming back, knowing that they're coming back, is that affecting at all the numbers that you have available for this recruiting class this season?
No, because of what we used last year, we're capped at a certain number. Is it fuzzy? No. Is it something that moves one way or the other depending on what stays and what goes? Yeah, it does. One thing I think that we've done really well here is personnel usage and giving guys opportunity. And it's fluid. It's fluid, and certainly there's some great players out there, and we're open to bringing in the very best as long as they fit the culture and are great people and everything else, high character guys. So and you also want to sometimes save one for the spring to see what shakes up after spring ball around the country. So no, I'm sure there'll be a couple of occurrences here in the next month or so and beyond.
Right next to him, Jared.
Yeah, well, the success of Justin Herbert running the ball in the Rose Bowl, the moves he put on, it's like, and then you got Robbie Ashford coming all the way from Alabama without an offensive coordinator being named. Does that give us a hint that maybe we'll see quarterback running a little more this year coming up?
Well, anything that helps us win, we'll do. I think we protected Justin from running much at all during the season, and I think it's for the right reasons. He's one of the few quarterbacks that made it through the season healthy and got us to a Pac-12 championship and a Rose Bowl championship. But you also know the advantage it brings, especially when playing against teams that play a bunch of man coverage, right? You've got to create an extra man. You've got to create an extra gap. And he did that really effectively. We feel the quarterbacks here can run. We feel Robbie can run. We feel Butterfield can run. We feel strongly all these guys are athletic enough to provide that for us. And some maybe more than others, but it's something that we've always had in the package. We used it a lot more the last 2 games, and something that we're strongly looking at going forward.
Here on the left, Matt.
2-part question. When do you start resuming workouts, and I guess what is the team doing right now? And then can you tell us who's here from that early part of the 2020 class, and your thoughts on those guys?
Absolutely. With the extra week that we had, actually had an extra couple weeks, had an extra bye week, which for us is like an extra week of development. Had the championship game week, that's another week. And then the Rose Bowl was played 5-6 days out before classes started. So it's quite a whirlwind for these guys. That's your reward. Hey, great job. Go back to class, right? So it's hard for them. And then you have to schedule their discretionary weeks, and you got to get the bodies back. And I think it's well documented when we go hard. I mean, our off-season program is as demanding as it gets, and that will not change. But to be successful there, we have to take these first couple weeks and get those bodies back, particularly the guys that had a lot of snaps. So for them right now, this is discretionary time. They are voluntary workouts. I mean, guys are constantly coming in, so I imagine I'm not allowed to be down there and take attendance and all that stuff, but there are a lot of guys. You just happen to see them on the way in and the way out. Before we start up this next week, our true off-season program that leads up to our fourth quarter program, and then spring ball. But that's the only way to be able to go full throttle those days. You've got to get their bodies back now. And talking to those guys that just walked out, they feel pretty. I asked them if they want to scrimmage. They said not yet, but they're going to be ready soon. Early guys that are on campus right now. Okay, TJ Bass, Jay Butterfield, Jonathan Dennis, JJ Greenfield, Noah Sewell. Noah Sewell is actually at the All Poly Bowl. Yes, sir. But he was here already, checked into classes, real tough life, right? A week of school, go to Hawaii, come back. I mean, best deal available. Jake Shipley just got here now. He had finished up school. His took a couple extra days. Braden Swinson and Bennett Williams. And then we have a handful of other guys that we'll get here in March, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, we're just waiting on academics to clear up on that. It's kind of neat being in the quarter system. You're afforded that opportunity. So all these guys will be taking part in the off-season program and spring ball, which is awesome. I mean, it's hard to match that type of an opportunity. So we're excited about them, for them. We have a great mentorship type of, I would say, not only opportunity, but setup where these guys are really brought in. They have to take in the culture, and the culture has to accept them. It's a tremendous marriage that is fun to watch and see, because that's where development starts. That's where relationships start, and so far it's been great.
James in the middle.
Not going to go through specific names in the OC search, Mario, because I know there are many, and it's also not fair. I get it. But for tonight, because it is the end of the season in a game, does the end of the season play into it, and that some people may be otherwise disposed
Is this
of?
count as fishing right now? I'm just asking right now.
Well, there's been reports, so I'm not going to go through specific people. Does does the completion of the season help in reaching finality and all this?
It may or may not. It's hard to say. I just think we have a lot of really good candidates, and we really vet these guys now. What I learned getting interviewed back when I was, I'm not old now. I hope I'm not viewed as an old guy now. But when I was younger and had the opportunity to go on some really unique interview processes, I mean, I'm talking about put on your track shoes and stretch out, man. You're going to get worn out. You're going to be, questioned and quizzed and from A to Z on everything from a system and personnel usage and watching, a certain candidate's tape, then watching our tape. How would you do it? How would you critique it? Why did you do this here? Why didn't you? Let's watch and evaluate prospect tape. How do you evaluate guys? What's important to you in this process? And so it's been endless. I'm not sure if I answered your question. I don't, it may or may not. I just think there's we're trying to head in a certain direction. We feel good about the direction we're going. And it all points to us just getting better. And I think every time you have a vacancy, okay, and that relates to everyone in an organization, is you always have the opportunity to upgrade. And that's not a dig or a shot at anybody, because I think that our previous coordinator did a really nice job while he was here, but it's just the nature of the industry, right? I mean, every time you have a guy graduate and move on, you hope you're recruiting well enough to replace him at the same level or better, right? You always want to get better. And that's how we view any and all of these change at any position, because college football is what it is, right? It's the only constant is change. So you better have your Rolodex ready. You better cut out time and everybody else and make sure you're bringing the best people for the organization.
Anybody else? All right, AJ.
Coach, with the Rose Bowl in the rearview mirror, can you still feel the kind of the afterglow and the energy from that still within the program, the coaches and the players?
Absolutely. And that was one where the 24-hour rule did not apply. It shouldn't apply, right? The season had come to an end. It's the most incredible postseason bowl game I've ever been a part of. I mean, 91,000+ people, the culmination of a conference championship, all these seniors having, just so many of these guys since they were knee high wanting to play in a game like this. And the way that game was just going back and forth and ugly sometimes and a little bit prettier other times, and to find a way, and especially on that last drive and all the things that led up to it. And no, incredible feeling, incredible. And so many families were there to witness it. I mean, I've never seen more tears in my life from some big old ugly dudes now, all right? I mean, it was like, the passion, the emotion, you know what it was? It was validation, right? It was validation of a blueprint that demanded every ounce of everything that we all had. And it was for everybody. I mean, for everybody involved. Yeah, it is still there. Our workouts will get it out of us and focus on the next thing. But to me, there's no way that you should stop and not enjoy that for an extended period of time, considering the work that it took to get there, and then realize what it took to get there so that you use that momentum to carry over to the next season. Yes, I've ordered a ton of sweaters, shirts, hats, without a doubt. Make sure the logos are on our shirts. Not this one yet. Kenny Farr will hear about that one later, but without a doubt, I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. I hope that was a great moment for everyone involved, and just to appreciate. And you could tell by how long I'm taking to answer this question, which Patrick is staring at me. You gotta, I'll say this is Kirk Herbstreit, okay, who is busy as can be and has got a lot of stuff going on. Mentioned before going out, he says, you better stop just for 1 second, take a deep breath, and take in this setting and take in this game and what it means to so many people for so many years. And the fact that out of this game, a new legend or a couple legends will be born. I was like, okay. So there it is.
Last question, right here in the middle, James.
Just wanted the next couple of weeks beyond the OC hire, Mario, from tonight and whatever your plans are for the game to, I didn't know if you were an AFCA guy. I know Joe's there and I think some others are, to next week in the Senior Bowl where you have 3 very prominent players playing. What is your plan for the next couple of weeks?
Yes, I did not make it to the convention due to I want to gain more ground towards the OC search. So I'm sure now I'll get in trouble for that. Thank you for making that public. Aside from that is I wanted to meet and spend time around our new enrollees. I think it's important. It's kind of strange, in this college calendar, you spend so much time recruiting these guys and they get to your campus. Well, where's coach, right? I think it's important to be there, greet the families, greet the parents. I got to greet most of them, missed a couple yesterday, so I have to try to catch up with them before they go back. I will be joining Panay and Coach Mirball and the Sewell family in Omaha for the Outland Trophy award presentation. And I'll be on a flight that night or the next morning for whatever many consecutive days we have left in the contact period. A very large suitcase, fully stocked with everything you need to survive on the road, and make sure that we're recruiting at the highest level possible and that we elevate the standard for how we recruit. And then we'll come back and get started with the fourth quarter program.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay, thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Have a good day.